Ryan, this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. And today we are looking back at the month of August and recounting the 3 very best board game plays that each of us had. We actually just recently wrapped up counting down our top 50 board games of all time. If for some reason you missed that and happened to click this video, one, that's a little surprising, but you might check that out, because those definitely draw a lot more attention. But maybe you're new to the channel from watching that, in which case, good to know we do this every month, that we do this top plays of the month. It's a good way to talk about what's actually hitting the table. Sometimes new games, sometimes old games. Just depends. Let's see. Mine are more on the new side of the spectrum today.
Yeah, I would say mine too.
Yeah, and if you're new to the channel, Daniel also doesn't know how to talk, so you'll quickly learn the dynamic.
Yeah, you'll learn that real quick.
Yes. We also love when any viewers drop in the comments down below what your top game play of August was. It's fun to hear what other people are playing and what stood out for them. Yeah. We will also have links in the description below to all the games we talk about if you would like to check them out for yourself. But let's throw it over to Daniel. I hope he can get his
Come on, Ryan,
act together. Which way are the videos?
I don't know. I think it's the other way.
And Daniel, kick it off with his number 3. Here.
Okay, Ryan, I cannot tell you how excited I am to talk about
Can you at least try?
Okay, well, I'll try. To talk about my number 3 play of August. Because, Ryan, this play, you could argue, has been a decade in the making. I have owned this game since I was, midway through college, and always had this vision of what this game could be, if you find the right situation. And the hardest part is just finding the right situation, because this is a game that you need, at least 6 players, ideally up to 8 players, and 8 players who enjoy real-time chaos, stress, all in a board game. My number 3 play of August goes to Captain Sonar. This was shocking, Ryan, because I organized kind of a game night, and this was not the game going into the night that we were planning on.
Well, and you didn't even play your copy, right?
No, right. It wasn't even my copy. We actually had more people than I was originally expecting, and so we were like, okay, what games support this number of players? And my buddy who had this game at his place was like, well, we've got Captain Sonar, and I kind of look around at the group, and one of the couples had played it before. The rest of the group were all people who had been familiar with playing, more board games. So we're like, you know what? When are we going to have a better shot to try this? And so, fortunately, we went into it, and we didn't make the mistake that I made last time, because technically I have played it like once before, and I made the mistake of doing the turn-based mode first, because I thought that would be a good way to learn it. It's a terrible way to learn it, because it makes the game take like 8 times as long if you do it. I think to learn Captain Sonar, you just got to
just get thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, right. Baptism by fire. So you just jump into it, and that's what we did. We actually had 7 people. So it was I was on the team of 3, and then it was a team of 4 on the other side, and this game really just delivered that unique experience. I mean, you start the game, and there is so much just tension at the table of the captain is announcing the directions of west, north, east. The person on the other side, I'm gonna forget the names of the positions, but there's a person on the other side who's listening to the opposing team's captain and listening to those directional calls, and on a clear sheet tracing that, and then trying to move that around, because they're trying to pinpoint where could they be on this map, because they have to avoid islands and they can't backtrack, stuff like that. So that person's doing that. Meanwhile, whenever the captain makes a call, for a direction, you've got the person who's in charge of all of your weapons, who's choosing things to charge up, because ultimately you have to charge up a missile or charge up a mine, and so you're choosing that. And then you've got the person who's trying to keep your whole ship from falling apart, and whenever the captain calls a direction, they have to mark off one of these circles that it corresponds to the direction called. Well, the problem is, whenever you if you mark off one of the weapons, you can't activate any of your weapons when that's marked off. However, if you check off all of the circles that are connected to each other, you can then erase them all. Which we actually played 2 games of this. The first game, I was the person who was listening to the other captain and kind of tracing, and that was really fun. Probably my favorite one. I was the captain the second game. Oh my goodness, is that stressful? Because you're not only trying to obviously, just call out directions and move, but every direction you got to be paying attention to the person who's trying to keep your ship from not falling apart, because the directions that you call are what they have to use to try to, fix the ship and stuff like that. This game, there was so much energy at the table and excitement. And that feeling when the other team is on, they've found you. And it's like, there's that, okay, we need to, either surface, or we need to maybe use our silence, weapon that lets us, move, try to kind of lose them and whatnot. This is real-time battleship, team versus team. And it does not get played often. It's hard to get to the table, but I'm going to keep it in my collection, because if you have that situation, there's just no game like it. There's no game that delivers that kind of experience. So it brought me so much joy, Ryan, to finally. Yes. I kept asking myself, should I keep this game in my collection? It has not.
Which is why it's so funny that it was not even yours
copy.
That got played.
I
know.
We'll
be looking forward to 4 years from now when Daniel gets his first play.
I know. But it's a fun one, Ryan. I would honestly, it's got me thinking about even just like our, family reunion or whatnot that we have, each summer. Yeah. I think that could be a good place for it to get played, especially because I was saying, I think I said this to you before, of the roles have different kind of pressure levels. And so you can kind of maybe let your more high people who like the stress of it, like give them the captain role. That will give you the stress. Whereas someone who doesn't want maybe quite that much stress, give them maybe the role where you're just charging up the weapons, and it's less stressful. So I think that can make it work for different groups, a little bit better. So
I mean, Daniel, we're 2 of 4 siblings that all have each have significant others. That's 8 if my math is right.
Oh my gosh. And they would all love this kind of game.
It probably would go over well, probably.
That would be interesting.
Maybe it needs to happen.
Oh man, Ryan, let's start playing it. Here we go.
Okay, my number 3 is a game that I have been praising a lot this year. It's been just a big new hit into the collection. Have gotten a number of plays of it since I originally got it. I haven't even had it for a year yet, and I think I'm at like 7 plays or something, which is saying something because it's a long game. This is Slay the Spire, the board game, and especially long when you play it with 3 players, which I did.
Oh, you did a 3-player game of it. Wow.
Yep, so got to play with 3 players. One player hadn't played it before, but has played tons of heavy games, and the other had played this several times. And just, I feel like I'm just repeating myself when I talk about this game, but it just delivers such a great cooperative epic. It took us probably 4 hours to do the full run. We won. If anything, like my only complaint about 3 players, it's like easier, like as you have more players, because like so much of Slay the Spire, like when you lose, there's that moment where you just don't get the right draw with what the enemy does. And when you have more players, you're just a lot more resilient to that, because somebody might have gotten something that can help us get out of the situation, or, whoever's in the worst spot with the enemies in the road, there's 2 other people that could potentially help them out. That said, we did have one moment, like it was one of these games where 98% of the game felt like we were steamrolling and like really kicking butt. And then there was like one moment where it was like, wait, did we just lose? Like I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened.
That's how all my video game plays go.
But somehow, like, one of the other players was able to do something and happened to get something that could give me a defend or something, and that, like, saved us in that situation. And it was like, well, that was really close. And so it is that type of game. And that's honestly part of what makes it fun, is there's this, even when you're doing well, there's kind of this tension of like, you're
could always
shuffling your
turn.
deck every time.
Yeah.
You might get the worst possible hand against, just the right enemy that's going to really, and if your health gets to 0, that's it. You're done.
Done.
But, pack it away and cry. You wasted.
Remind me
It's
if one
still pretty
character. So
fun.
if one person dies, what happens?
You're done. The whole
Everyone.
te-
Oh,
yeah,
right.
everybody
Loses.
loses.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, which is part of what gives it that strong team dynamic.
Yeah.
Like when we know one player is maybe struggling a little bit more with their health or defending themselves, other people have more incentive to like upgrade your defense or do other things that let you defend for other players. Now we
Yeah.
always joke because we're like, oh, you're defending for me, right? I don't need to worry about getting more defend cards. I'll just keep getting attack stuff. You got me.
You got it, right?
Force them to.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm not defending, so you better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when somebody's going to win the game in a competitive game and everybody doesn't stop them so that the last person in turn order has no option.
Yeah, we're not doing it. You'll take care of it.
You got that at the end.
Oh, gosh.
So I played the Ironclad in this one, which is kind of the most... I don't want to say vanilla because like all of these are really unique and cool in their own way, but it's kind of the one I would recommend playing first for most people. But had a fun build that was really leaning into getting lots of strength. You can get those strength tokens that make all your attacks stronger by how much strength you get.
Yeah.
I actually had the card at the beginning. I got very early at the beginning of the game. There was like some event or something that let me get one of my rare rewards. And it was the one that it's a power that you get out that once you get it out, you get a strength every single turn. Which is very, very powerful, but it's honestly not very good in the early game because these battles aren't long enough for that to really pay off, and it's expensive. It's an expensive card.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm still going to take it because at least then I know I can build a strategy around this long term. And it definitely panned out that in the late game, anytime we were facing an elite enemy or one of the bosses where this was a longer battle, I was just dominant down the stretch because I was getting my strength up so high, and I had some good stuff with just being able to play a lot of cards with card draw and energy. I had the ice cream relic that if you don't use all your energy on a turn, it rolls over now to the other turn. So that's really helpful if you want to like, especially it's really helpful with like enemies, depending on what actions they're taking, because there's sometimes a turn where it's like the enemy's defending like a ton.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, I'll just like save my energy for next turn and really hammer him. So that was pretty helpful. So yeah, it was just good fun. Everything that this game has proven that it delivers basically every single time I play it.
Right.
I've now played, I think I've played every character at least twice, which would seem to imply that I've played the game 8 times. Maybe I've played it 8 times. But yeah, it's great. I think 2-player is still my favorite. But 3-player with a good group is still a ton of fun. Honestly, I'm kind of waiting to unlock more of these ascension levels because you're supposed to like unlock them one at a time. But I almost feel like with 3 players, I want to bump up the difficulty even a little bit more, just to make it feel a little bit more tense. But yeah, Daniel, it's good stuff.
Well, you mentioned that you feel like you've been talking about it a lot, and that's because literally in your top 10 board games of all time, this was your number.
Hey, don't spoil it. It was in the top 10.
It was in the top 10. You have to watch the video to find out more.
The top 10 that we recorded 2 times.
2 times. So you've really been talking about this a lot.
Maybe that's why it feels that way.
Was that your only new game in the top 10?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's very, very difficult for a new game to break into the top 10 these days.
This has been the by far and away biggest breakthrough in, our just board gaming, experiences and whatnot of, a game that both of us love a lot. So, very good, Ryan. My number 2 is a bit of a funny one. This play caught me by surprise. I was not planning on this getting played. Was actually at I was over at a friend's house for actually a fantasy football draft that was going to be happening in the evening, but we were over there for dinner, and there were some of my buddies who have played games with before were there. So social gathering. I'm like, I'll just bring a bag of games. Who knows if anything will get played?
I mean, that's just good stewardship of your game collection. Always be ready.
Well, what's funny is I had already had a bag out from a previous game night, and so I left one of the games in there just because I didn't want to put it away, and then I threw a few more in, and
Wow.
and wait,
Lazy Daniel.
well, the laziness paid off, Ryan, because my
Yeah.
number 2 goes to Heat Pedal to the Metal. So left Heat in the bag, and we get there, and the other 2 guys there both have played a lot of Heat, played a lot on BGA as well, and so we were like, let's just 3 of us, we can whip out a game of Heat. This game continually impresses me to the point that this, games can be great, but maybe not feel like long-term staples. Like you could see the game maybe getting replaced if something else. This one feels like a lock, a staple. Like this is never going to leave my collection because of just how solid it is. We had a blast. We played on the Great Britain map, and it was 3 of us, and then we filled out the rest of the 3 with the Legends module, which, oh my goodness, does that work well. It is such a just simple, fast way to inject racers into the game, and it works. I'm just always amazed at how interesting and well they play and how balanced it is with the rest of us. We almost lost to one of them. But man, the race there was just so many exciting moments. I mean, so early on, and I am notorious for this, I make a big move and I just blow through my heat, like on the first lap, and this is why
Daniel likes to limp over the finish line.
Well, historically, I have not done well in this game because of that. I'm hyper aggressive early, but in our map we had some weather that in 2 different sections, the weather allowed for an extra cooling. So I was like, okay, maybe I can be a little more aggressive up front here, work some of the cooling. And it worked out okay. Like I didn't spin out. I was able to kind of survive, but we get around to this second lap and it is just neck and neck. And, I couldn't believe going into kind of we're coming around the last curve, how tight it got, because it was like, first, we used the garage module, so I had a pair of wings that increased the speed limit.
Literal wings?
I think that was what it was called.
It's a fantasy expansion.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like some stylistic thing.
It increased the speed limit of the corner by 2, which was critical because there were 2 curves.
Yeah, that's where that can be really
And so I was
big.
able to hit 2 curves and come back and get in neck and neck, with the others for the final straightaway. But then 2 of the Legends modules both made a double curve move as well. And there was one of the Legends modules was in last place like 2 turns ago, and going into the final round was neck and neck for the final straightaway. It was like, oh my gosh, everyone lined up there, and I actually I drew a fantastic hand on the final round and was able to pull away and get the win. But Ryan, what I love so much is that this isn't just a racing game that just kind of resolves itself and it just someone pulls away and it kind of, just that there's a lack of excitement. There are so many exciting opportunities for interesting moments in this game, and a big move and a whoa, look at how you pulled that off. And I just love the tension of how hard do you push yourself, how do you manage your heat. This is just by far the most fun racing game I've played, and it gives me that thrill of racing, which is exactly what you want in a game like this. And the fact that you can play with 2 players and fill out the Legends module
times
and
have
a blast. You can go all the way up to, if you get some expansions, 7, maybe even 8. When you get do they already have the 8th?
Yeah, I think what is it? Something tunnel expansion.
So I'll eventually get those. I'm kind of hoping to get a tournament or the
season play or whatever it is.
I want to play that kind of coming up here soon. I think that'd be a lot of fun. This game is so good, Ryan. It's just so good. So a surprise play, but a fantastic one.
Nice. Yeah, it felt like there was a long season there for Days of Wonder where they kind of didn't have a big hit. Obviously Ticket to Ride
Right.
early on is like so huge for them. And even games I feel like at least at the time, like Small World was pretty big. And there's been ones like Five Tribes I think had pretty good traction, but this feels like for me like their next big hit.
one.
Like this is like an evergreen
Yeah.
game, that should continue on.
I
for them.
agree.
And I think they knew before they even released it, I think they knew they had a game that it was special. Just evidenced by the fact that they made the base box basically with an expansion in the box. Like it's almost like you're getting the first expansion with it, and there was the spots already in the inserts
For
planned for the
seventh,
next
they
two
knew
expansions.
they were going to be expanding.
Yeah, so
it
they
more.
already knew. They were like, we are all in on this.
Yeah.
For good reason. It's a great game. My number 2, Daniel, I'm not someone who is like much of a shelf of shame person. So what I mean by that is usually if I get a new game, it isn't super long before I get that game played. And there aren't typically very many games
like
on my
Captain
shelf
Sonar, right?
that I haven't played. Yeah, I don't do that, Daniel, like you. But this
You're shaming
game,
me. What the heck?
This game has sat on my shelf, I think, for close to a year without getting played. And there's a little bit of a caveat here because it's a new edition of a game that I had played quite a bit that I
Okay.
was anticipating was, going to replace it. But finally had a situation that I was like, you know what? This actually might be a really good group. There was just 3 of us. And this game might be even a little better with like 4 or 5. But 3 of us is like, this might be a really good group to do it. Finally got to try The Crew Mission Deep Sea.
Oh, and I was thinking when you said not played, I was thinking like a huge game or something like that.
No. And that's the thing is it's like,
Yeah.
how could I not get this to the table?
Right.
And part of it is like The Crew, the original, felt hard to get to the table because it very much was that campaign style
right.
where, okay, if I don't have that group that was doing it. Mission Deep Sea still has that campaign system and everything. And in fact, that's what we were doing, was going through it. But the huge difference here is where in the original Crew, it would be like, you're taking this many tasks and the tasks are just the number cards. It's like the pink 9 or the yellow 7 or whatever. Here, they have a whole deck of cards that are like varied challenges. Like it isn't just necessarily get this card.
Right.
And they're also rated by difficulty. And so you have this whole deck and like it says like based on the number of players, like so for 3 players, this one is a 1 difficulty, this is a 2 difficulty, this is a 3 difficulty. What that allows you to do is then the mission just sets a difficulty. So like a 4 difficulty mission, you draw from the deck until you have exactly 4 worth of difficulty and
That's
skip.
cool.
So you could end up with 4 1s, you could end up with a 3 and a 1.
That's like what game is that we've played that has like you draw the monsters and it's Too Many Bones.
Too Many Bones is a little bit
Right,
that
right,
way.
where you draw the monsters and you could either get like one big one, based off
on
how
that,
much you
like,
have,
battle queue
Yeah,
level or
that's
whatever.
funny.
Yeah, and it very much changes the feel.
Right.
And yeah, so it's a little bit of that feeling of like the same difficulty could feel very different
Right.
within it. But it also means if you replay a mission, like in the original Crew, if you replayed a mission where say you were getting 3 of those objectives, it feels almost the same. It's just different numbers. Whereas here it can feel wildly different. Like we had, because there's objectives like I will not take any of the first 5 tricks. So that could be what somebody is trying to do. Or I'm going to take these 2 cards. Like some of them are like, I'm going to take the pink 3 and the yellow 7.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like combined into one. And there's a bunch of other things. And so I absolutely love that just from the variability perspective. But it also now means I feel much more comfortable bringing this game out to just play impromptu with the group because all I would have to do is set a difficulty. And we say, we're going to play hands at this difficulty and you could tune it as you go. And just by doing that, every hand's going to feel very different. You're going to get some of that variety that the base game did in like different missions, like variations that'd be like in this mission, there's this thing that's different.
Right.
And it still has some of that if you go through the main mission, but you get more of the varied feel through these objective cards being a lot more varied than just the numbers. So we had a great time with this. It's one of those games that each hand takes all of 5 minutes or less. And so even though it's a game that like you could play for just 5 or 10 minutes if you want to just play a couple hands, more often you end up playing for an hour or longer because it's so easy to go,
right.
oh, just one more hand.
Yeah.
Oh, just one more hand. One more hand. Oh, we failed. We could get this one. Let's try it again. And yeah, we just had a great time with it. And I feel like now that I understand the new system, and like how the difficulty thing works, I feel like it's now one I could pull out.
Right.
With I know our mom actually played the original
likes
with
this
you
game.
and liked it. So I mean, there's like a situation where this could make
and
a
you're
lot of
not
sense.
tied to the campaign. You can just bring it over
Exactly,
and play
and you could have gotten around that in the original one,
Right.
but I think the deep sea version really lends itself, to still getting variety when playing in like a standalone. So really, I also was just reminded playing this again because it'd been a while since I played either edition. This game is really fun.
It is fun.
It's
really
really
fun.
good. If you have a group of people that are familiar with trick-taking games and know all the stuff of like how to short a suit or like how to deal with Trump,
Yeah.
it delivers such a fun cooperative experience trying to kind of solve the puzzle of each hand. Excellent game. I mean, if you're a fan of trick-taking games and have somehow missed the fact that apparently that we are in the golden era of trick-taking, it feels like what Roll and Write games was like 2-3 years ago. It was like, oh my gosh, how many Roll and Write games are going to get released? That's how it feels with trick-taking games now. There's a point where I'm like, man, I only need a couple trick-taking games in my collection.
Right.
And there's so many still coming out that are adding new twists and stuff. But this, I think, is kind of the best in class as far as a cooperative one. A lot of fun.
Very nice, Ryan. Well, as a side note, I am grateful for the ability of editing software because I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick and then I'll be back. See ya.
Wow, Daniel.
And we're back. Thank you all for that.
So Rolls in the family first.
No, first for everything. Speaking of first for everything, Ryan, my number one was my first time playing this game. Not the first time playing this system. We just did our top games of all time, and I talked about the original of this game and the way it really has, I think, given me the greatest thematic experience that I've had in a board game. And yet I was intrigued by this new version.
That's a pretty big claim right there. The best thematic experience in a board game.
That is a pretty big claim, right?
You might be telling the truth. I think
you'll never know.
I
could be lying. Be lying.
But I'm just saying that you shouldn't say that lightly. We've had a lot of good thematic
I'll try
games.
to have more enthusiasm when I say that.
Yes.
But got a new version of this game, and I really think it delivers what I was looking for. My number one play of August goes to Nemesis Retaliation. I was able to get this to the table with a group of people that I'd played the original Nemesis with. So that helps. They know, there's obviously a lot of similarities around the core, just kind of mechanics, but there are a lot of things that they changed where the game feels, this isn't just like a slightly different theme Nemesis. Like this feels different to the point that I almost think you could own both. Because
you'd have to really love it and get it to the table.
I wouldn't own both, but you could because they do deliver. It's a very different feel. So it was just really interesting to notice the changes that were made, and I think for the most part, I really like what they did. One of the big differences is in original Nemesis, it really leaned into the you are completely helpless and could die at any moment. And part of that's the fun of it. Like there's, the fun of just the terror. You don't have quite as much of that in Nemesis Retaliation. Like you're walking in and you've got some starting, equipment cards. You've got some power, a little bit more power to you, when coming in, which some people might not like that as much. If you really love the total just helplessness of it, the original Nemesis might be better. I like it better because, frankly, it's not very fun if someone dies randomly in the second round of the game and has to sit and watch for the next 2 hours. As much as the fear is fun, I think it just works better as it's, you're getting people together for this huge game.
Yeah, maybe if you play the game every week, you're a little more tolerant.
So I personally like that kind of just that you're coming in a little bit stronger. That works better for me. The variable, there's just a lot more variability in this one. Like the map, the way that exploration feel of drawing a card and seeing how the different, things come out. That is such a fun, just watching, it's not going to be crazy, different in terms of A, B, and C, but it will have the general place is going to be.
But the way things are connected, I haven't played it from what I understand, the way things are connected, because like if once a room comes out, a new hallway can't appear and connect to it, right? Like
correct.
Because it already is defined. And so like you can definitely like get situations where there's kind of different parts of the facility because of that inability for it to connect back.
Right. So that part of it I found was just really fun, going out and exploring and the discovery of it. I like the change they made to the objectives in the sense that you still get 2 objectives, but the original one, first alien comes out, you have to commit. So at the start of the game, you're like, I don't even know, I'll just pick one. Versus now you can hold on to both of them, potentially the whole game if you want to. However, you're incentivized to commit because the person who commits first is able to get 3 action cards added into their hand for that round, which in a round that could be massive, and it gets less and less the later you commit. But what that does is you don't as much get into a situation where like, oh, you're stuck with an objective card that's like, yep, that's never gonna, I'm never gonna be able to get that at this point. Like now that you have 2, it just gives again a little more helps avoid scenarios where someone's sitting at the table like, oh my gosh, I'm like, there's no, I'm out of this at this point. So a lot of changes around that. It is interesting as much as like you're more prepared and the actual like fighting of aliens is, you're more equipped for that. Holy cow, the Queen is way harder in this game.
Yeah.
Like, that was a huge shift. Like, in the original one, it was like the Queen was hard, but you could kill it. This one's like, you would have to go crazy.
Yeah, I was just watching like a how to play for this, and it's like you have to get her health down, and every time you get it down, that gets rid of 1 card,
which could get rid of more cards. So there's a little bit of
but you then have to get through the whole deck with it.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, which I kind of like. That the Queen is like absolutely terrifying. Is cool, but. So I felt like the changes to it, I really liked what they did, and it still delivers that incredible Nemesis experience. Like in our game, we're going out and I actually held on to both of my objectives for the entire game. It was actually funny. I had an objective that one other player would be alive at the end of the game. And he had an objective that I would be dead at the end of the game. So there was a little bit of some interesting dynamics going on with that. But gosh, I can remember, I'm kind of exploring the top of the ship, and I discover the escape pod. And I was like, ooh, but I needed to still take care of a few other things. And so I move away, and I go to the spot to, I think it was to change our the ship, whatever thing that can like
the
fire
anti-aircraft or whatever.
Yeah. So I took care of it, and I didn't even need that. That was for the team. Like I didn't actually need that, but I was like, I want to help the team, so I do that. Well, then I move back to the escape pod, and lo and behold, another player at our table shows up there as well. And we were just laughing. We're picturing this moment. We're both in this room, kind of looking at the escape pod, like, so. What are you doing here? Because only one person can use it, and then you're gone. And unfortunately, he went before me, and so he gets in the escape pod, leaves, and I'm like, oh no. And so I'm like, I got to make my way back to the front of the ship. Well, I start pressing my way back.
It's not a ship anymore.
Oh yeah, it's a sorry.
It's like a base.
Base, yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
I got to get back to the beginning. Well, then the aliens start just going crazy around all. I mean, it turned into like an infestation. We got the card so the Queen came out, but we got the card that makes you add all of the Queen tokens into the bag. Well, our bag was almost empty at that point. So we're like, oh my gosh, the Queen went on a terror run, and it was, again, with how terrifying the Queen is, it was terrifying. So lo and behold, I made a valiant effort. Was fighting my way back, but I ultimately succumbed to the aliens, and
ripped to pieces.
And honestly, it was only the guy who left in the escape pod who won the game.
He won.
Yeah, everyone else and
lost.
Was
he the one that needed you to die?
No. There was a different guy that needed me to die. So it was so much fun, and it feels good when I took a bit of a gamble selling original Nemesis.
Yeah.
But just looking at the mechanics, I was like, man, I think this is making improvements that I'm gonna like, and I really think it did. So all the Nemesis games are fantastic, just different kind of. They lean into different things depending on what you're wanting. But for me, this is the version that I'm like, yep, this delivers what I want. So it'll be interesting to see. You've got a game coming up.
Yeah, so I also have it. I played the original Nemesis once with you, but picked up Retaliation. Same reasoning that it seemed like a lot of the things.
I'm amazed that you picked it up after playing one play where I taught most of the rules wrong.
Yes. Well, it's knowing that I was like, it was fun even despite.
Can you imagine if I played the right
just imagine
way?
how fun it'll be. But yeah, I actually am scheduled to play a 5-player game of Nemesis Retaliation tomorrow as of filming this.
Oh my gosh. I'm excited to hear it.
So, maybe check in for next month's top plays. Maybe we'll be talking about it.
And if it's not on the top plays, you might have sold it.
Maybe we need to start doing a bottom 3 plays of the month.
Would people like that?
Well, it'll out you in your months where you don't play more than 6 games.
They're the same games.
Yeah. And my worst play of the month is also my number 3 best play of the month. Yes. All right. My number 1 is another big kind of newer hyped game. And this is one that I am glad to announce that we finally completed our 3-game Blighted Reach campaign run of ARX. And we've talked about ARX here and there on the channel. Early on, we were mostly talking from the perspective of the base game. We had played that several times. I guess I say you played it once.
No, I think I played
in
it
person
twice.
Anyway, or I don't remember.
We played. I think we played it once in person, and I think we played.
Yeah, I don't even count that first.
Yeah, that first play. Gosh, that was rough.
Yeah. And so found the base game of ARX to be very, very, very fascinating, very fun, very cutthroat, intense.
Oh my gosh.
But was very interested to just try the Blighted Reach expansion. So had a good group of 3 of us. The first 2 games of this campaign were very lopsided. Our sister kind of just
It's a 3-game campaign?
Yeah, it's a 3-game campaign.
And 2 of the 3 were lopsided blowouts?
Lopsided.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, they were still like
Caitlin.
Interesting. But me and our sister's boyfriend were just, both of us like had moments of like, oh my gosh, we made such big mistakes that just like, I mean, it's that type of game. Like things are hard in that game.
Yes.
And so if you do something forgetting a rule or like, and it was the type of thing that's like, man, this game was just going to be so much more fun, like another level up when a lot of these rules are just second nature. And I will say the Blighted Reach expansion adds quite a bit of rules on top of base ARX. There's all this stuff with the Empire, these purple ships that are out there and how they interact on the map. You start as like regents of the Empire, and there's somebody that's the first regent that holds like I forget what they call the resources that like belong to the Regent's Trust or whatever. But then people can leave and become an outlaw, but there's all these rules about how you can interact with the Empire ships and stuff. And then there's the Blight that's on the map. That's this weird stuff that like will attack you and is really tough. So it's like a lot of actually extra stuff. In addition to then you're playing these fates that each person's fate is bringing in new things into the game. What's so cool about this system though is how it works with, you start the first game with each of you has like an A fate. And then that's giving you another objective to try to achieve, that you actually have like another marker on the victory point line that you're trying to get down to 0, and you have some way that you can like move it. One thing I like about it is it gives everybody their own kind of asymmetrical objectives, and it actually takes some of the tension off that's in the base game. In the base game, it's all about the ambitions, and the ambitions are so much of this. I'm going to swing this by literally coming and stealing from you so that I can get it. So this adds a little bit of like, there's still that piece of it, but because people are also trying to achieve other things, it takes some of that pressure off a little bit. But what's interesting is if you complete your, mission entirely in the game, then you can choose to continue on to like the next level of that fate, which will bring in some new stuff and some development. But if you don't, then you're going to get 2 new fates and have to like pick one to come in as. But anything you still own from the original stays. And so you now have kind of like cross-classed because you might have some things, or there might just be some things in the game. So a good example, and I wouldn't call this spoilers. I'm going to talk kind of vaguely about a few things. So if you want to know absolutely nothing about what's possible,
if you don't want to know anything about board games, unsubscribe from our channel, please.
But this is one of the A fates, which is one that you would be likely to see early, is the Believer. Who our sister's boyfriend was. And he has this really interesting thing that it brings in this new suit of cards that's like, would go into like the actual trick-taking deck. And there's ways that he can get those into the deck, and they're like his Believer cards, and those start coming up, and they're really interesting in the trick-taking because they're a unique suit. So like if someone leads it,
oh my
like
gosh.
people, if there aren't many of them in the game, they're not going to be able to follow suit. So what's interesting is he completely failed his mission the first time.
Wow,
so Believer's gone, right? But all of these cards and basically lived on. Like the ones that weren't used got put into the guild deck where they could actually come up and get bought. And then we still had, that was a defining thing of the rest of our campaign, is that we had these cards in the trick-taking deck that would come up. And they represent like the disciples of this like religious figure that's long gone and failed or whatever, but it's still, there's some very interesting kind of like fun storytelling aspects to this. And so, just the fact that he was that fate in the first game, in game 3, where it's been a long time since that one's been around, we're still feeling the implications of that, and like that's playing into things. And he potentially still had some cards that were from that. So very interesting how it develops. Now we got all the way to this game 3, and all of us changed fates going into the last game to C fates, which the C fates are some of the most wild abilities and stuff. And most of them have like some kind of alternate win condition, which is cool because if you've been getting your butt kicked the whole game, it kind of gives you this path that you could pull off a win in that last game, even if you're way behind on points. And so we go into this last game it was a lot of mental overhead because we hadn't played the game in like 3 months, and then we all had brand new, things going on. But very fascinating what was going on here. We had our sister's boyfriend had I forget what the name was, but basically was starting to like collapse the gates on the board, and it made the center space actually a space that ships went into, and like there were these tokens that would go out on the gates that would show that everything that moves into that gate actually funnels into that middle twisted passage. And then there was a die on the twisted passage that had one of the symbols that matches like a lot of the planet sections. And you could basically move from the twisted passage to any planet that matched the thing. So you got like funneled into the middle, but then could like jump. But whenever you jump, you'd re-roll that die. So it would change where the twisted passage is connected to.
Whoa.
And so it's completely changing the feel of the map. But then his like objective is he can now use other people's starports or his own to basically launch himself into gates, destroying the starport and collapsing those gates. So he's doing these like launching himself to like collapse the solar system and like make more of it into the twisted passage. And he actually did a really good job of that. He ended up getting up like, I think every gate by the end of the game was like collapsed into the twisted passage. So we have no ability to move around gates. Like you either have to go planets or like go through the twisted passage. And his objective was around like getting as many of those as possible. And then whenever he would do certain things, he would score according to how many he had. So that's, very interesting feel in our game. Then our sister had this thing that she basically no longer declares ambitions. But when she would declare an ambition, she instead puts a secret token that's betting who she think is going to win that ambition. And she can bet on herself too, but it's secret. And we then are incentivized to declare that ambition, because if we don't declare it, when it comes to resolving ambitions, any that are on undeclared ones, she just automatically gets a progress for. If we do declare it, though, if she's right, she gets a progress, but if she's wrong, she loses a progress. And so there's this whole now mind game thing of like, and how she's manipulating things. And so that was very interesting. And then I'm trying to remember, you'd think I would remember my own thing. It wasn't going well, let's just say.
Ryan's already repressed that memory.
Oh man, I'm like completely forgetting what, because towards the end of the game, I ended up basically going for more of a point victory, because the thing I was trying to do was just not going to happen. I'm completely spacing it. But we're coming down the stretch in this game, and it got to a point where it really was like anybody could win this game. Our sister was definitely the one that was threatening most, because she had gotten a lot of her predictions right, and like she was getting really close on that. But the more that Evan, her boyfriend, started collapsing the gates, he was making some good progress on that. But then there was an interesting that happened on the points, because Caitlin our sister was way ahead on the points. But then they had this, I think it was something that came in our second game, that they both were members of this Commonwealth. I had broken out of it at one point.
Ryan,
but it basically meant when Caitlin would declare an ambition, she could put the Commonwealth token on it. And that basically made it that when we resolved that for points, everybody that's in the Commonwealth gets to combine all of their stuff to count towards it. And then they split the points. So it's like a shared group going after it. But if someone outside the Commonwealth wins it, they win the first and second place values doubled. So like it's like a really high stakes thing. And so what ended up happening is Caitlin did that on one, but I was able to pull some stuff and swing it and basically win it as the sole non-Commonwealth member. And I managed to declare the ambition twice. So it had two ambitions on it, and I got all the value of both doubled. I think I got like almost 50 points in one ambition score. And so suddenly I'm way ahead on points. And so the way our end game played out was Caitlin's trying to finish her last predictions and stuff to win that way. Evan's he had all the gate stuff out. He needs to either win ambitions, or there was one other way that he could trigger. Oh, it was if he controlled that twisted passage. Like at the end of the round, we always saw who had the most fresh ships there. That would also allow him to progress. So he's trying to do that to hit his. I had basically given up on mine, which is why I don't even remember what it was. And I'm like, we have to get to endgame scoring. If we get to endgame, if neither of them get their win conditions, I will win an endgame scoring. And so the final chapter of this game was so different for me, because I literally don't care about winning ambitions. I don't care about... All I care about is prevent those two people from getting their things, which is very, very hard to do when one of them is this bluffing game of who did you predict to win the ambitions. And like, if you bet it, I need to go and try to declare that ambition, so at least you don't get it for free. And in the end, it came down to both of them met theirs in the final round, so no good for me, although it was very, very close. We had one of the it's a thing that forces you to roll the die, and there's a 50-50 chance you're either going to resolve edicts or crises, which I know doesn't mean much to you because you've not played this.
Oh yes, edicts and crises, yes.
But if it had been crises, it would have actually I was currently the first regent, and if it had been edicts, I believe, because one of the edicts was that whoever's the first regent like taxes everybody. Everybody has to like put resources into the pot of the empire, which the first regent, what's so interesting is that counts towards the first regent's resources. So like that whole group pot is like part of my count. And had that happened, it would have swung the ambition, which would have made Caitlin's prediction wrong. and would have meant that they wouldn't have scored it together as a Commonwealth and Evan wouldn't have gotten his. So there was a 50-50 chance on that roll that neither of them would have made it and I would have won. But because we got the crises, both of them got it. And then it basically came down to a tiebreaker of power, which Caitlin was way, way ahead on power. So our sister, after dominating the first two, held on in the last one, which was by far the best game, by far the most like interesting and compelling and close. And honestly I feel like Ark's delivering on the promise of what this game set out to be and the design. You know, I've heard some stuff about Cole Wehrle talking about it where it's like he wanted a game that like could really go off the rails because it's going to end. So like the campaign doesn't need to stay balanced past that point. So that last game can get really wild and interesting because really unstable because there's no need for continuity like a game like Oath that's by the same designer where it's this indefinite campaign. Well, you can't let it get broken basically.
Right.
So yeah, it was a great time. The group of three of us all really enjoyed it and have already talked about like it would be fun to do another one. I mean, we just see how different it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be so different in another playthrough of this. And for the record, if you go back and watch our sister's top games of all time, she crowned it as her favorite game, which this was before this dominant performance.
Yeah, she loves this one.
But now her boyfriend, after finishing this and despite losing, also said that he thought this might be his favorite board game. So I definitely have a group that is very willing to play this.
Watch out, Agricola. Here comes
I very much enjoy this game for what it is, and it feels like of like kind of Cole Wehrle's games. I had Root, but this really feels like the one that's going to stay in my collection. I love that I can do this cool 3-game campaign with a group, but I love that I also can just play a standalone game, and I would feel comfortable teaching the standalone game to somebody that doesn't know anything about it and feel like, okay, we're going to have a good first game. I did not feel that way about Root. Like Root was like, I'm only going to teach it to somebody if like we think we're going to play this multiple times, and it just was not feasible to keep it around. But yeah, fascinating game. I mean, there's really nothing like this. And yeah, like we only saw a very, very small handful of the fates that are in the game. But congrats, Caitlin, if you're watching on your what was looking to be absolute decimation after game 2.
No, just slight decimation.
But held on for the win in game 3.
What an incredible month of gaming, kind of on both of our parts. Those were some fantastic games. And if you're interested in any of those, again, links down below. Way to check them out while also supporting the channel, which we appreciate. And we've got all sorts of more videos right here that you can click on, check out. Hope you stick around to keep exploring the world of board gaming with us. We'll see you in the next one.